Running Sentences presents The Drawn-Out Fight, Part 2. Arrest. Vass finds himself in a tricky situation as the little town seems very against him all of a sudden. This is a work of fiction. It is inspired by the manga Tree Gut. There are several similarities between the two, but I have made a lot of differences as well. If you wish to classify this as fan fiction, that might be what it's best named as. Copyright 2022, Michael Honnery. All rights reserved. Vass stumbled at the sudden shock of pain that caused his eyes to bulge. He hadn't felt such a shock in a while, and tried to wrestle his mind about to accept it quickly, fearing it might actually be the end of him here if he did not.
Damn you and your shooting! You ruined the best plans with a simple wave of your hands.
The mayor slammed the safe shut and looked like he hadn't been hit by Vass's shot. There was a glare from the mayor, who had the pistol in his hand, but his arm was coming out of his jacket funny, like it was their third arm of something. A second later, Vass put together the thought that the mayor had slipped his arm out of his fancy jacket sleeve and hidden it under it, and was holding the pistol that was now poking out of it.
Ow! Oh, shut up and die. I shot you with poison, so quit aching about what's happened.
Mayor Corbin rearranged his arm so that it was back in his sleeve, while the pistol remained trained on Vass. Once done, the man quickly went over to sit down on his desk. The cigarette smoking continued once the man was safely where he wanted to be.
What kind of poison? I'm not telling you that. You die a mysterious death, you.
All of Vass's energy felt like it was slowly draining from him and left him gasping for air. His mind tried to come up with an idea of what he could do to save himself. A look around the room wasn't what he expected. There should be more light in here, yet it felt dark with the half-drawn curtains covering the windows. Vass shook his head and grabbed the crystal he dropped on the ground. Mayor, if you're going to kill someone with poison, you should probably make sure that you know that the doses will finish things quickly.
I know all of the measurements, as told by the one who taught them to me. What do you know? Now die!
The gun barked from the mayor's hand, and a sickly thwack hit Vass in the chest, knocking him a few steps back. He caught himself and gasped at the new pain that ran through him, then glanced down to see a splotch of red, waxy red, that didn't look right. His hand went to picking it off his coat and rubbing it with his fingers.
Where's my brother? What are you on about? I said die!
Another shot and another stagger from Vass, who didn't move as far this time. The red wax mark was there as well, on the other side of his chest. You mentioned my brother, Rapier. The mayor, Corbin, who'd scrambled out of his chair, was furiously trying to make the pistol fire again, and was paying no attention to Vass. What is your connection to my brother?
Death comes to those who betray the connection.
There was another bang from the gun, but it sounded a bit different this time. Smoke was pouring from the barrel, but no bullet came. Corbin took to shaking the gun, and eventually out plopped the bullet from the barrel. All I want to know is where my brother is. Tell me that and I will leave you alone. Slightly.
Give you information? What makes you think you can survive? You're poisoned and will die soon. It's taking longer than it should, but you will die.
Not if you use polyps poison. It doesn't work. On me, anyway. Did Rapier tell you it would kill people? The mayor's fist was shaking as he held the gun. In fact, his whole body seemed to be shaking. So you are a doll. An advanced one who was sent to do what? Tell me that, at least? That you're advanced, and you're here to kill the town or something like that? Vass's grip circled his pistol, and he pointed it towards Corbin, who hadn't stopped shaking. He took a step forward, his foot meeting something, and he realized he'd dropped the crystal again. His foot pressed down hard on it, crunching it out of existence, which caused the mayor to go pale. Did you leave one of your crystals to be held by the sheriff? Or did the sheriff even know it was in there in the first place?
I did not know such thing.
And in return, you hold the ones that keep them alive inside of you, and you trade a few for them, and what's it like? You're dying, aren't you?
Why do you need to know, Rapier? You should know it all by now. You said you were his brother. He's told you time and time again what he's doing, has he not?
I just want to understand what's going on, and why. He doesn't tell me anything.
There is no why.
Unless they have lost all sense, then there is a reason for what they do. My brother is no exception, and he, as far as I'm aware, has not lost his mind. I know what he's trying to achieve. I don't know his exact purpose.
We will kill everything and all that exists.
The doll looked like it had lost all sense of decorum with the way it was twitching. Corbin's head went this way and that, not staying still for more than a few seconds, as he came around the desk with this shaky movement. The gun he'd been holding was gone, and taking no more chances, Vass fired 2 shots, toppling the figure to the ground. Its movement came to a stop.
We will win the war against...
The doll said no more, as Vass moved towards it. A lifelessness had come to its eyes. He could only sigh. A little more information would have been nice. We don't always get what we want, though. He squatted down next to the former mayor, that was a doll, and repeated the process he'd done with the sheriff and Smitten. This time, though, he removed more than a dozen crystals, smashing them one by one on the ground. His work done, and there was no money to be found in the house, Vass, exhausted, had left there. He was now at the gate that separated the town from the land that was the mayor's home. Beyond that, he could see a collection of townspeople, none of them looking happy that he was there. This fact was demonstrated by pitchforks and torches, with all of them being waved around constantly over the people's heads. His mind went to how many bullets he had. The last count was in the range of 24, but that had been this morning. He counted 18 or so people, if they were people. They were also out in the sun, so maybe people, or advanced dolls if he had to guess. Oh, I see the lady who's rented me a room last night. The crowd was now at the fence gate.
Yes, I did, and now I regret it.
Is that because the power structure of this dump of a town has been destroyed for trying to kill you people? Or did I do something else that I'm not aware of?
It has to do with the fact that you're the brother of an infamous criminal and have a wanted poster yourself.
Yeah, crap. That poster is old, by the way. It's not still active.
No dice, sucker. We've already called the rags, and they're on their way. You stay there like a good human being.
Vass could feel the itch in his fingers and the pull to pull his gun and start shooting. He pushed his hand down to keep that from happening. It was an easy solution, that one, and it would be a messy one when the Rangers did show up. He did not want to take it. He rather liked people, but at this moment, that wasn't so helpful. Forgive me for saying this, but you're all idiots. There will be no reward from that bounty, as I said. It's already been claimed. I did my time, and that debt was paid for in full. Not even an early release, though I might have begged for such mercy more than a few times. The crowd waved their preferred tools of choice in his direction over their heads to show their dissatisfaction with the news. It would not tide them over.
Your head is ours!
They surged towards the gate, and he had his pistol out and fired off 2 rounds towards the crowd. It was indiscriminate fire, although above them very clearly, since it was a large crowd and there was a good chance of hitting something and someone. He, however, did not wait around to see what he had shot at, as he took off running towards the back of the house. Vass hoofed it, hoping that the gates would hold the crowd for more than a few seconds. It really shouldn't, since there was no lock on it that he was aware of, so he kept moving as fast as he could. Back behind the house was a deserted desert area that went up towards the rocky outcrop that came over the town, shading it. He looked left and then right. The edges of the town and some buildings were to either side. He dared to glance behind him to see if the torches and pitchforks were coming around back, which he frowned at. Then, in a spurt, he turned and began heading to his left, hoping that some of the people hadn't been smart enough to cut him off. As he reached the far edge of the house, though, he saw several of the townspeople rounding that corner, and dodged away from a rather pointy pitchfork that came in his direction, thrown his way. Another tried to grab him, but the figure saw the gun in his hand and came to a stop, not wanting to get shot. This group seemed undecided about what to do as he went past and scrambled his way over the wrought iron fence that stood 7 feet tall. Once over the fence, though, everyone seemed to realize that he was getting away, and once again set off in pursuit. Through the streets he ran, taking on people when he came across them, and dealing with them as best he could. He was not trying to kill a single one, but it may have happened. He couldn't tell as he'd run the second he could whether or not anything hit them or if he shot them. He just was moving to keep moving and get away. In and out of houses and buildings he went, chased here and there by people. He kept running around until he was sure that no one was chasing him any more. When it was all said and done, Vass found himself back at Maggie's place, the bar hotel, sitting at the bar. He poured himself a drink and sat down on a stool, exhausted and wondering if he was ever going to get out from under this old bounty on his head, or from the people chasing him. It didn't seem likely as he tossed back some of the alcohol that made up whatever Maggie was calling drinkable. Vass made a face at the taste of it and then swallowed it down. The sound of a door swinging open made him turn to look over. A couple of rangers waltzed in, hands on their guns, and spreading out over the room. "You, sir?" "Yeah, can I help you?" "Did you destroy this town and its people?" The thought of answering yes flitted across Vass's mind. It was in some ways true, and it was also in some ways not true. He had run around and shot at people, and they'd shot back and thrown pitchforks, and things got a bit messy. He was only here to clean up a mess after all, even though he created one in the process. This mess that this town was now in had gone unnoticed by officials at the local big cities, and somebody had to deal with things like this. "No. Who are you aside from rangers?" "Jacob Marley, ranger of the West Quadrant, and you look familiar." "I get that a lot. Best to ignore that feeling since so many are wrong when they think that way." "You, sir, are the only one alive in a city with freshly murdered people in it, and I've seen your picture on wanted posters." "Oh joy, have you now? That is an old poster." "You are Vass, the gunman, who has haunted and destroyed 5 cities and is said to have superhuman powers?" Vass shook his head no, but he realized they were not going to listen to him, so he slowly began to raise his hands to show he wasn't holding any weapons as he came off the stool. The variety of guns pointed at him from a dozen or so rangers made him nervous. He'd had enough experience with this force of police to know that they like to shoot things when things look wrong. "Arresting me won't get you anywhere, and I didn't kill anyone." "I'll let the judge settle the matter. You're under arrest." The rangers moved in, grabbing him by his arms and pulling them behind his back. Vass let all of this happen, but still shook his head. This is going to put his own investigation behind schedule, but he didn't really have a choice in the matter. "Can I recommend something to you, Mr. Jacob Marley? Whatever you said your name was. You should get in contact with Chief Inspector Mary Stewart. She'll set things right with you." The rangers did not listen as they took his guns and grabbed up his bag and yanked him out of the bar. At his desk, Rapier sat, looking over a selection of papers. All of them were covering the latest news on his works in progress. None of the papers were crowing about the achievements his dolls had made. No, they were all doom and gloom. With a sneer, he tossed aside a paper, letting it flutter about and then float towards the ground. A knock on his door, followed by it quickly opening, and a small man coming in annoyed him even further. no one bothered with manners, and his temper was quickly raising as this man made his way to the center of the room. A deep bow did little to make things better. "Apologies, sir, but I have news from the town of Blackrock." "Am I supposed to know that name?" "Yes, sir. You had 3 dolls in the city to wipe out the population per your orders."
"Oh, did they finish the job?"
"No, sir. Someone else did, and your brother has been arrested in the same city."
"What about the dolls?"
"Dead, sir." Rapier slowly rose from his desk, glaring towards the man who had delivered this news. It was not a good day today, and now this.
"Tell me, Gorm, do you know who killed the dolls?"
Well, sir, it isn't exactly clear yet, but there was only one person in town supposedly alive by the end of it, and your brother was, Rapier was over at the man in a flash and slapped him before he could say anything further.
"You aren't allowed to not know what is going on. My entire operation depends on knowing things, and you waltz in here and say you don't know? How fucking dare you!"
The man cowered and tried to back away, holding his slapped cheek in his hand. I thought you would want to know, sir."
"Of course I want to know when something is happening. It doesn't help if it is incomplete information."
"I see, sir."
"Good. Now we have a bigger problem. I sent 4 dolls to Blackrock. Which one survived?"
The servant Gorm backed further away, his head bobbing about in a desperate look for answers. However, Rapier's office was filled with books and papers, which had nothing that would help him. I will look into it, sir, and I will get you what you want." With a shake of his head no, Rapier pointed towards the door and began heading towards it.
"No, you will follow me. You need to see something before you go find information, you brat."
Where are we going?" Rapier may or may not have heard him, having already opened the door to the office and taken a step outside. Gorm moved towards the door with awkward, faltering steps as he tried to figure out how much danger he was potentially in. The man Rapier, he knew, could be an incredibly cruel to all that got in his way, and that the previous worker that had held his position had disappeared, never to be heard from again. But that didn't mean that the man couldn't have a change in heart and personality. I'm only here to help you, sir. Please don't do anything to me, my mother. My mother wouldn't be able to put up with life if something were to happen to me." His words were all falling faintly, without landing on Rapier. It took them a minute to get where Rapier wanted them to be. A balcony overlooking Red City. The evening air was not cool, but hot and humid, and sat there like a lump. Just sitting there, keeping things uncomfortable. Rapier wasn't bothered as he opened the doors to the balcony and strolled out to stare down at the city beyond. Gorm was a few short feet behind him, but keeping a distance to stay away from the railing.
"Do you see what I see, Gorm?"
A nice city, sir? Rapier swiveled on his heels, a dark expression that bordered on black crossing his skin. Gorm swallowed and wondered if human skin could do such a thing.
Yes, a city, one that is supposed to be mine, yet it isn't. Why isn't it? Oh, I hear that question you're thinking. It's because fools like you don't listen to me when I give you an order.
I'm sorry? Gorm tried to back away from the man who was his boss, but Rapier moved towards him rather quickly. With his boss's hand at his back, Gorm found himself propelled but stopped short of the railing, and a 40-foot fall below.
What are you going to do about it? I don't want to waste more time for people to realize that I am their master. I don't want to wait out their puny lives anymore.
Well, it's too soon to release the army of dolls you've created. That would put a strain on you, sir.
Yes, it is too soon for that, so we need something to hurry things along in my favor. How do we do that?
Rapier's hand was on the back of Gorm's neck, with a bit of pressure behind it. Gorm was pushing back since he didn't want to get any closer to the edge. Information? the hand pushing on his neck relaxed for a second.
Yes, good. And what hurts my chance of succeeding at that?
That would be, incomplete information?
Exactly, Gorm, exactly.
In a jerky motion, Rapier grabbed the back of Gorm's shirt and tossed him back towards the doorway into the house itself. The man landed and skittered across the stone balcony and into the door a second later.
Don't come to me with information I can do nothing with.
Scrambling away, Gorm hurried down a hallway, hoping that Rapier was not following. The stomp of footsteps behind him said otherwise. He upped his pace, since he didn't want to get in the man's grasp again, fearing what might happen to him if he did. A twist of hallways took him from the 5th floor of the mansion down to the basement. There were also a variety of stairways which he went down as quickly as he could. The house was a maze, and one wrong step could lead one down a dead end and into the grasp of his boss. With Rapier chasing him, Gorm certainly did not want to get caught. The cold cellar with racks of bottles and wooden kegs of drinks slowed Gorm down for a second. He shivered and tried to push onward. The cellar held Gorm's associate, who liked to drink and eat, and would only give information when plied with that sort of stuff. Gorm had never seen Rapier drink a drop of this stuff, but it was well stocked always, and he hoped that anger from using this tool to get what he needed was not going to fall on him. The fast-paced walk down one row of bottles brought him to a woman who'd set up a table from one of the kegs and had more than a few bottles opened up.
What do you need now?
You've only come running when things go badly.
Incomplete information? I told you all I know, and what I saw. I barely escaped myself. You should be thankful I was able to tell you anything. I would be thankful if it weren't for Rapier being pissed off. Now that isn't my problem. It is your problem, Maggie. If he finds out that you're here sitting around and not doing your job, I can't account for what he'll do. He won't do anything to me. I'm one of his.
Gorm felt a headache coming on and put his small hands next to his temples, trying to rub it away before it came on.
I thought that, and then I got thrown across a balcony and threatened with being thrown off of it, all because I had incomplete information, thanks to you. If he's doing that to me, he's gonna do something to you.
Maggie took a swig from one of the bottles and slammed it back down onto her little table with a burp.
What do you want from me? I need to know what happened there. No more sitting around doing nothing but eating and drinking. We have work to do, so please go find out all that's going on in the city.
There was another loud burp from Maggie, who began getting up from her chair, which also happened to be another keg.
I spent hours and hours getting here, only to get yelled at. That's your own fault. I wouldn't be in this mess if you sent word up ahead and tell me what some of the information you had on that it was incomplete. Showing up and spilling all the news you had without gathering more facts causes me problems. It isn't my fault, Gorm.
She turned and stormed off into the darkness of racks of wine. To this, Gorm quickly began the process of cleaning up, fearing his boss was around the corner and would throw a fit at seeing such a mess. He'd given the man plenty of time to catch up to him so far, but he hadn't. A nervous shiver went through Gorm as he cleaned up and waited. Nothing happened, and his boss didn't show up, so he turned and hurried out of the basement. There was still another person to talk to. A short trip outside the roundabout part of the house put Gorm outside, and hurrying his way across to the fence that kept people away from the green grass lawn. He stopped at the gate, where a man was leaning against it casually. "You've finally gotten around to visiting me, have you?"
"I've been busy. My sources are getting me in trouble, and now you're calling me out to deal with stuff."
"Hey, calm down. You can't blame me for coming to you to get stuff done."
"I can, but what is it this time?"
"Well, Blackrock is done, so I need a new assignment."
"Fine. We need someone to keep tabs on Vass, the gunman."
"You want me to find his brother and kill him?"
"If the chance comes up, maybe. I will get clarification from the boss, but don't be hasty in killing him. Just keep tabs on him.
I've seen his work. He dropped 3 dolls without doing much work. It would be better to eliminate him now.
If our boss wishes it so, do it. But until the order comes through, it would be a good idea not to do it. If he is as effective as you say he is, then it might not take him long to figure out who you even are.
The man leaned against the gate, frowned, and nodded reluctantly to Gorm's satisfaction. One less thing to worry about if this man followed his orders. Not that he trusted the dolls, but they weren't completely independent of Rapier's control. He'd have to tell his boss also what he'd done, and that was not appealing either. Not waiting for any further talk, though, Gorm turned and hurried back to the house. Scurrying up to the front door was as far as Gorm would get, as he was stopped by Rapier standing in the doorway. His master had a curled snarl on his lips.
What have you been doing? Organizing things and simplifying matters for you.
What exactly does that mean?
I have the doll that was providing me with information, now out seeking more information, and I have a few other sources working on things as of now.
What is the mission?
To keep track of your brother, potentially, and to find out more information, potentially.
His master nodded and considered this and rescinded a bit of his snarl. Fine for now, let us get back to work. But, my brother, what about him?
We are working on it. I have people working on it.
He nodded further, and then Rapier disappeared into the house, and Gorm followed. Vass, on the other hand, found himself in a prison cell on the Rangers' forward base, not terribly far from Blackrock, which gave him his answer as to how the Rangers had gotten to the town so quickly. But he'd been put in a cell and then left alone with no food or water to keep him company. The bright side, he'd gotten some rest and was now mostly back to normal by the time night had rolled around. He sat on a small cot rubbing the wounds where his chest had been hit. They were now mostly healed, and he was dealing with those. He was still trying to get the rest of the poison to sort of subside in his body. He sat there waiting for something or anything to happen. A light came into the hallway outside the cell and came up closer and closer until it stopped at his cell door. It then shined brightly inside. Vass had to raise his hand to protect his own vision. You are in trouble. Hello, Mary. Why is it whenever I get a call from you, there is either a swath of destruction following you, or you're in a prison cell? No idea. Danger follows me, I guess. Or maybe it follows my brother and I'm trying to clean up the mess. Not according to what happened in Blackrock. The Rangers are all up in arms. Yes, well, according to the Rangers, I killed everyone in that little town, and I know for a fact that isn't true. Namely, I don't have the ammo to do such a thing, and also, the weapon used to kill the people wasn't found in town, according to the gossip of the Rangers, who escorted me back here. It wasn't found at all. Yeah, that too. And you expect me to just get you out of there, on your word? That or you can join me in here for some stuff that you've done that you are hiding from people. She frowned and held up a set of keys. It didn't look to him like his threat had gone over well. Threats rarely do, but they do get the ideas moving in one's head. Now, if only this lady would play nice. I do not like that idea. Which one? Or both of them? Both. You have promised to stay out of trouble. Why should I trust you and let you out when you're going to wind up back in here the second I look away? My brother? Yes, about him. I have found no record of any such man. I suggest looking harder, but I have a feeling that someone is helping him hide. And no, I don't know who it is, just that something is going on. And you, once again, won't tell me what is going on so I can fix it. If you wish to go around saving the world by yourself, fine, but don't drag other people into situations and fail to explain things even on a basic level. At first, Vass opened his mouth to complain, but he shut it. It was true he wasn't telling people things to keep them out of trouble. It was a good reason, since he'd seen what dolls could do to people, and it was never pretty to come across a person who had been carved up and then splayed out for all to see. To bring someone into his world would risk that happening to them, and that was something he could not stomach. My brother is a killer, and hidden by someone, as I said. I don't know by who, and I'm trying to track him down and stop him. He's creating things to help him. And why can you and only you do this? You know the stories about the mysterious murders or the supposed hauntings that take people at the night in some cities and towns and places. That's his work. Not him personally, but it is his work. He's trying to destroy people so that they don't breed and grow out into a big society, from what I understand. The dolls, you mean? Or are we as a simple government workers not supposed to know about them? Vass swallowed hard, unsure if it was a good thing that she knew about them or a bad thing. There was the potential that because she knew about them, that she was working with said bad people. Or it might be she came across the fact all on her own. He tossed about which of the ideas might be the right one in his head. Well, it isn't good for one's health to know about them. How so? Free me and I will tell you all you need to know. A little bit. She sighed and sorted through her keys and began unlocking the cell door. He popped up when it was open and strolled towards it. This is your last chance, by the way. Are we clear on that matter? Vass nodded and smiled to try and show that he understood. Maria returned this with a look of doubt and nodded her own head. No. Trust was at an all-time low between the two of them, but to Vass there was a good reason for that. So where are we going? The headquarters tent of Colonel Dismay. The stroll from the prison tent to the headquarters tent took a minute, as they snaked their way through a tent city filled with rangers who were tending to their fires and other matters that they needed to do. The cold night had many huddled around those fires, as Vass followed Mary to this colonel's tent. Inside was a bit warmer and sparse, aside from the form of a desk, a bed, and a small torch fire with a smoke hole above it. The man in charge, in his fancy blue-green uniform, seemed more intent on staying warm than pay attention to the subordinate who looked like the man who had arrested Vass. In fact, it was Jacob who spotted Vass walking free, curled his lip, and stared at him. What is he doing, Frey? It is under my orders, Jacob. He works for us, from time to time, and in this instance I rather believe he wasn't at fault for this situation, though he always looks rather suspicious when events keep happening around him. If things keep happening around him, then it is obvious that he's playing a part in them. This gunman Vass can't be allowed to roam free. It would put too many lives at risk. The colonel clapped his hands together loudly, which made everyone look to him. I will talk to the man and see what he says. For now, though, Jacob, I suggest you tend your men and get your reports done. You always fail to get your reports done. The lieutenant went wide-eyed, and then flapped his jaw a few times before he managed to make some noise come out of it. I'm filing a protest. Do as you like. It won't get far, and you aren't well liked by the others of this unit. Or, higher up, I should say. But it will be filed and noted. In a rage, Jacob pointed his finger all around to try and find something to settle his rage, and pointed at. The empty looks from all three of them refused to let him have his way, and he stormed out. Now, what is it that this man knows that makes you so willing to put your neck out there, Mary? I've heard so many stories about your connection to a Vass, and now here he is, and so are you. He's hunting his brother and the dolls, but won't say much other than that. A raised eyebrow and a concerned look found their way towards Vass from this colonel, who did not look happy. It's a bad story, and the less people that know about it, better. I'm giving you an out, Colonel, just in case you wanted it. Noted. Please tell me more. The man didn't move, and even Mary decided to move towards a seat on the ground, and both fixing him with a stare when she had sat down. Okay, my brother wants to rule this world through his means. It doesn't matter to him how it's done and how he does it. His latest plan, from what I can see, is to create dolls. And what are these dolls exactly? Why are dolls a threat to us? They are much like child's dolls. They're figures and they have no will of their own. They just sort of flop around, except that they are human-sized and they have a magical arcaneness to them that is infused into them through crystals. And then he can inscribe orders to them and tell them what to do. It's a bit rough, my understanding of what exactly is going on, and that's why I have to find him, because I don't know what is exactly going on. What I do know is that what powers them to look and act human is through some powerful planetary crystals my brother has found and somehow keeps getting, and that keeps them going and doing the missions that he orders them on. And these dolls are ordered to kill people? Among many things, yes. Generally, they don't do it out in the open unless challenged to do so. The work they do is at night, for the simpler ones. They can be figured and made to look like whatever they need to look like. They can be ghosts, they can be demons, they can be human-esque. Also, because they mostly look human, it is hard to spot them when they blend in well. 3 of them were working in Blackrock as a group, I guess. One was the mayor, one was the sheriff, and one was just a lone murdering mad doll. There could have even been more, I'm not entirely sure. And how many of these exist overall, would you say? Vast shrugged. He can create as many as he likes as long as he has the crystals, or a way to power them. The Colonel and Mary were sharing a series of concerned looks, but didn't speak to one another as he was saying all of this. To Vass, this meant that they knew some of this stuff, and he was merely confirming fears. This worried him, since if others knew what was going on, his brother might know, and decide to eliminate those people who did know stuff that they should not. Well, this sounds fanciful and hard to hide. Also, it is for a person you can't prove exists, from what I have learned. What do you say to that, Mr. Vass? The only way someone can hide in plain sight is with help. I don't know who, how, or why someone would help him, but they are doing it for some reason, and he is out there, and he is going to do what he does, eliminate everything. And this brother of yours, this rapier, who you are claiming is doing all of this, how does he make these dolls? Yeah, well, I'm not sure how to explain that entirely, potentially. And why not, boy? I'm not sure he is like most people. My brother looks human, but underneath it and in that mind of his, he might be something else. Well, thank you for entrusting us with that information so far. It doesn't really tell us much. However, there's not much we can do, I don't think. Yes, no proof of this man existing, nothing to go on, and those dolls, if they were in Blackrock, vanished. The Rangers searched the town up and down and only found humans, which brings us to an important problem. Mary looked over at the Colonel, who seemed deep in thought, but staring hard at Vass. You're wondering if Vass caused all of this? I am innocent. I did not kill anyone. I do not like killing people. I do not like the idea of death. It's bad. Yes, he has shown me a couple of times, at least, that he doesn't like killing people. But no one believes you when you tend to wreck so many places, Vass. That's the effect of trying to find and get information about my brother, who probably considers this a giant game of some sort. He gets to destroy things and I get to stop him or something. It's not good. Then why do you play? You could save an awful lot of cities and people by not going along with this game, as you call it. We cannot afford to have places destroyed, so why not sit to the side and let the professionals deal with the matter? It is why we are here in the first place. It isn't that simple. He will try and get me to come and fight his dolls or whatever else he creates. Besides, you don't know where to look. There was a pause as the two considered this. I have a small solution to the matter, potentially. And what, Mary, would that be? What if someone were to watch over him, keep tabs on him to make sure what he says is true? Yes, I can live with that, I think. Yes, let us do that. End of part 2 of a drawn-out fight. Thank you for listening.